So let's return to our discussion on obtaining and managing a notary commission, and let's talk about the commission and what to expect in the next few weeks.
Once you've completed your required notary educational course, passed the notary examination, passed your background check, and your notary application has been approved, the Secretary of State will send you a letter of commission. On that letter, you'll find a date of commencement. The notary commission lasts for 4 years, beginning with the date of commencement, as stated on that letter of commission. As we'll discuss in just a few minutes, you'll still need to comply with a few formalities before providing notary services, since your commission will not yet be valid. But a valid commission is not the same thing as a date of commencement. You can think of it as the commencement date authorizes you to take your final steps towards becoming a notary public. But until those last steps are taken, your commission is not valid. A California notary public is permitted to notarize anywhere within the state of California, regardless of where the oath and bond are filed. California notaries are strictly limited to providing services within California, and even more importantly, for those who've been appointed to serve on or behalf of the military, their notary commission limits notary services to that military base or reservation. Let's look at an example for clarification. Maria Mobile's principal place of business is in Truckee, California. Accordingly, Maria filed her oath and bond in the Nevada County Clerk's Office in Nevada County, California. Maria often travels to South Lake Tahoe in El Dorado County to perform notarial services for residents there. Patrick Prescher asked Maria to come to his home in State Line, Nevada, to perform an acknowledgement on a document to be filed in El Dorado County. Maria must refuse to perform the acknowledgement in the state of Nevada. As an alternative, Maria may ask that Patrick meet her in South Lake Tahoe, which is in El Dorado County, California, or any other convenient location in California to perform the acknowledgement. Okay, so clearly a California notary is only permitted to notarize documents while they're physically in California. But you're probably wondering, what, after all of this, I'm still not a notary public? Well, the bad news is, not quite yet, but the good news is that the rest is up to you. You need to obtain a bond and file this bond along with the oath of office in the county clerk's office in the county which you stated as the county of business in your notary application. You'll need to do this within 30 days of the date stated on your letter of commission previously referred to as your commencement date. Now, the really bad news is that if you miss that 30-day deadline, your commission will be voided and you'll have to reapply all over again. Now, in the event you fail to obtain your bond or file your oath and bond with the county clerk within the deadline and your commission becomes voided, don't despair. Remember that your notary class is still valid for 2 years as long as you took the 6-hour class, so that won't need to be repeated. Now, if you took a 3-hour class and your commission is expired, well, as you already know, then you'll need to take the 6-hour class. Secondly, your exam results are valid for 1 year. You'll need to reapply. Just send in the proof of completion for the class and along with a note explaining that you're reapplying because your commission became invalid. A simple explanation of a sentence or two should be really sufficient for the Secretary of State, and they'll be able to process your new application. If they require anything else, they'll let you know. Most importantly, try to avoid reapplying by filing your oath and bond within the 30 days. Your commission is not valid until you comply, and if you start notarizing without a valid notary commission, you may be guilty of a misdemeanor. Now, in reality, most notaries tend to work as independent notaries, or they might be employed by a private employer such as a bank, a law firm, mortgage office, and so on. But we're going to talk about 2 other types of special category public employee notaries first. First, we'll talk about the special employees notaries public who are appointed as employees of California, a city or government agency or public schools district. We're calling this a special category of notary because special notary laws apply to this type of notary. First, While most notaries are permitted to notarize outside of regular working hours, even if their employer paid for their notary commission supplies, a notary in this special category is not permitted to perform notarial acts for anyone other than their employer, and they may not notarize on their own time. Most notaries are permitted to carry their commission with them when they change their job, as long as it's in the state of California. But these notaries fall into a special category because they must resign their notary commission if their job terminates for any reason. We'll also find out that while most notaries are allowed to keep the fees they charge for services, these special category notaries are not permitted to keep any of the fees for their services. Now, if the notary resigns the commission early, rather than to allow the commission to expire after 4 years, the notary must immediately send a written notice of resignation to California Secretary of State. We're going to talk in detail about the notary journal, but for now, you must know that when a notary resigns a commission, or the commission term lapses for more than 30 days, those notarial journals must be taken or delivered to the county clerk's office. This must be done within 30 days of resignation or upon termination or expiration of the notary commission. Of course, every notary also has a notary seal, which upon termination, expiration, or resignation becomes invalid. So it's the notary's responsibility to deface or destroy that notary seal so it cannot be used again. Now, the second type of special category notary public is the person appointed to serve as a notary for a military or naval reservation within California. This category refers to those notaries public who are appointed to serve as a notary for the military or naval reservation within California. Perhaps you'll remember that only these types of notaries public do not need to be residents of California. But also, these notaries may only provide services on that military reservation where they've been appointed. In addition, these notaries are the only category of notary that may not charge or collect any fees for their notarial services. All notaries are required to maintain personal control over their notary journal and seal. Now, in this case, if the employee's employment ends for any reason, it is the commanding officer's responsibility to notify the Secretary of State of the termination, and the termination is treated as a resignation of the notary public's commission. Of course, the notary must immediately destroy the notary seal and must submit all notary journals to the county clerk's office within 30 days. Notaries appointed to a military or naval reservation are not permitted to charge fees, are not permitted to notarize outside of that military base, are not permitted to keep their commission after termination or resignation of their employment, and upon resignation or termination of their employment, it is their commanding officer's responsibility to notify the Secretary of State. Of course, the notary is still required to maintain exclusive control over the journal, and upon resignation, the notary must personally submit the journal records to the office of the county clerk.